Yes.
Okay, so we are live?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for joining us for this first webinar on the Design the Future topics. Today we're going to, with the first one, we're going through the Design the Future in Office Environment. And we have three guests with us, very important guests from different parts of the world. So starting in alphabetical order from Hans of Chu Associates from London, Filippo Lodi from UN Studio in Amsterdam, and Amer Malay from WeWork in New York City. And now you understand why we set this on the afternoon timing, because of course we didn't want Amer to wake up too early for us today. So we will start, breaking the ice very easily, just to make it an informal, conversation. And I assume that everybody is nowadays working from his homes or remote from the office. And my first question is, how is that different? So it's drastically different from what it used to be before in your way of working, or it's more or less the same as before, or a little more than before? And I will start with Amer, who is in the other part of the world, and if you can give us your.
Yeah, no, we already had a more flexible type of approach to working in the office, so working from home was part of it. It just now mostly is working from home, so there's no major change. I'm working out of my home office, but the big change obviously is not interacting with people directly, not interacting with teammates.
Okay, and you, Filippo, what do you think? It's also related, to the fact that, of course, it's completely different to work on your own and work in a team. Like you have an office of 200 plus architects, and imagine the interaction is something which is very important, no?
Yes, I think the creative industry that we are part of is very much a type of industry that relates to talking with each other, to sketching, to designing, to pinning up, to show things, to print, to visualize, and that working from home or not working at the studio, which is not that of a new thing, as most of us also do a lot of traveling. So we experienced the same before in a traveling situation when we are traveling for different projects around the world. The only different thing is, I think that there is for us a lot more availability of everybody else. So everybody else is at a click available, and that is in a way quite an improvement. Instead of having necessarily to have a meeting room to meet, you can at a click of a button from your mobile phone have a meeting, and that's really fantastic. So I think we quite enjoy this.
And Hans, for you, London is still in a lockdown compared to other countries, of course. Is this also true in London, in your country?
It is, but it hasn't really drastically changed the way I work. My team is quite dispersed anyway. We're quite used to working at different locations, different time zones. But as Filippo was saying, we can't travel at the moment. Talking to contractors is a major thing, and we're using more and more visualization. With amounts of team, it's already quite visual, but I think a lot of the times you do desperately want to get onto the building site to discuss certain details. And I think that's the part that is missing. However much you want to visualize on paper is not the same as talking together and working some design and details out. But I'm not missing the traveling, let's put it that way, just for a couple of months. Nobody misses the airport, I don't think.
Well, yes, it gives you also other advantages, like to spend more time with your family, of course. But Hans, since we are, of course, all forced to this behavior? Do you think that this will influence the way we design our offices? For example, there is a lot of talks now about returning to offices with barriers, which remind me a little bit the cubicle of the 80s. Do you think that this is the way it will become the new normal?
Definitely, from my point of view, definitely not. I hope we don't go back there. I think people have worked quite hard over the past few years to give people flexible working patterns. So the old cubicle office idea is very much hierarchical, which we have been trying to get away from for some time now. And, you know, I think that there was an anecdote the other day about, you know, everybody's on a Zoom call, for instance, everybody's that small, you know, not the size of my office or the size of my cubicle. So it's quite democratizing that way. And I think that the bigger question is, you know, the knowledge-based worker and how they collaborate is going to be the big question, you know, whether the office is the right place to spend all your time, especially now that, you know, 99% of the people have learned how to work from home.
Okay, and Amer, do you think this is also true for your case of, you know, you're more in a temporary office league? You think that this is also true for your?
Yeah, I think the same. I don't think we're hoping we never really go back to that 80s cubicles. But you know, there's the open space has evolved a lot, obviously, and companies also evolved with it. There's a lot of synergies that happen basically spontaneously between team members that the positive impact of those synergies are invaluable, right? So once you put people in cubicles and boxes, you kind of kill that synergy. So I think that from our perspective, we're not looking at that at all.
Filippo, you're head of innovation in UN Studio, so I'm quite sure that you've been addressing this subject too.
Yeah, of course. I think that is one of the core questions from us as our own space, but also from us as a designer of the spaces. It is much about the office, the world of office, of working was already in transition before, right? We see the loss of you know, working. It's not about the office space, but it's about work, which is it's a different concept. So if we reframe, what are we designing for? We are designing for work, not for the offices, and that is now more evident, where everybody had this experience of working from home, that we design for work. So then your office doesn't become anymore the space for work, but it becomes one of the spaces for work. And in line with that, then we could expand the way that we can rethink why we need those places we call offices and what do we do over there. And we see that much more as places for social engagement, places that offer you an experience that otherwise is not possible from the other places where you work, the train station, the airports, the homes, the cafes, and those places can be more unique, but they're definitely not a place that confine time. It's not about the time where you work, especially as you know, we are working from 3 different time zones, but the perception is that we are on the same place. And so there is less of a notion of time and place, but more of a notion of what are the activities that we do, and what are what is the needs that these activities need, and how can we answer those. So as designers, and we are focusing on those activities and not on the space itself, and that is maybe now we have a chance, a momentum to have everybody else in the world experience what maybe we were already talking about before, but now everybody else is experiencing that. And So we get on board many more people than that we had before on talking about this new conversation. And this, I think, is a super exciting moment for this.
So more attention and focus to the people compared to the function of the space. So how are you going to, let's say, match this with the requirement of social distances?
Yeah, this is in fact a new challenge, and it is about capacities, about spaces. It's about addressing the behavior of people, but it's also addressing the needs for a look at change, and from a management perspective as well, as you need to kind of readapt to new spaces. Also, the way that we manage this change needs a very important redesign. So there is a new focus on organizational change and design of the organizational change, which is more related to the behavior of and the psychology of people maybe than to this physical space design. But that is a very complementary aspect to the space. So it's almost not possible just to talk about spaces. We kind of need to extend that to the design of the how healthy are we in new situations? How can we foster creativity in these kind of new settings? So it's maybe a different question that we ask ourselves in order to look for the right solution.
And Hans, do you feel the same? I see that you are agreeing to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's reframing the conversation, and you know, people have in all these weeks realized that they can be healthier by doing what they need to do. They can work, they can be flexible, and I think the days of, you know, having to do a VC in an office in the size of a broom cupboard, you know, in a room that's not very well designed, I think that kind of thing needs to be rethought. Because for example, if you have 50% of the staff working from home and 50% working in a location, the way they discuss and work with each other, it's going to be much more important, rather than actually the person who works away from the office is not so much more part of the team anymore. So there is I think all of this has brought about a acceleration in having the technology to accelerate team building, the way that the managers perceive productivity, engagement, collaboration. All these things has to be rethought, because without the person sitting in an office and actually being seen to be productive, now it's been realized that you can actually be very productive, or even more productive, when you're working away from the office. And the office really is, you know, networking, well-being, the things that, you know, as Filippo was saying, you know, the things that you can't do at home, you do in an office. And the office needs to provide a suite of tools where you can say, actually, I really want to be in the office, rather than I have to be in the office. And the office, just very quickly, you know, the office can provide something that is much more higher tech than what the home could provide, which I'm sure we'll touch on, you know, later on anyway.
And Amir, this focus towards people is something that you also perceive in your...
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, definitely echo the same as Hans and Filippo. You got to think of the office as not just a place of where you do a task of work. Our offices include a lot of different activities than just work. And so people go there for engagement, for cultural activities. So the office is really evolving to integrate and mesh in the lives of people better. How do we integrate that into their daily lives? It's not about showing up at this hour and leaving at that hour, right? So there's a lot of flexibility about time, space, and function.
But okay, so if the space, if with social distancing, of course, the space inside the building and a lot of smart working, part of the space will become vacant. So, Amer, do you think that, how are you guys dealing with that? Are you making the spaces smaller? Are you using the space in a different way or more efficiently, or you do something else in these spaces?
Right. So in terms of equipping, the spaces for social distancing, I think our team has done a fantastic job at quickly reacting, putting plans in place to do so. From de-intensifying the areas, managing circulation, etc., and really emphasis on signage and sanitization. But in terms of space usage, etc., I just, you talk about people not coming to the office and having more space inside the office. I think people don't want to be stuck in a box all day. It's just not, people are not made to be stuck in a box all day. They want to interact with other people. So I think we're going to need more space. Really, in order to be able to respond better to pandemics and situations like this. As for flexible usage, I think we talked about that. We already do a lot of that in our offices. The spaces can be used for multiple reasons and repurposed on a daily basis. So I think we're going to see a lot more flexible space design and that are able to respond to multi-programmatic needs.
And Filippo, UN Studio is known also for being very innovative from that viewpoint. Are you thinking, something crazy new for your new offices to comply with these new social distancing rules?
We're definitely working different scenarios, but also thinking that however we work, we need to foresee a kind of a medium to long-term perspective. So it's not just, so there is a first phase that's very reactive. So what are we going to do tomorrow morning? But in fact, that is the kind of first approach is where everybody is kind of busy from kind of like wayfinding signage. Is basically how to digest the current situation. But the real focus is looking forward and looking forward to what is going to happen in an uncertain future that it's not going to be a short time frame. So how do we deal with that future? And that puts us into a kind of back to the question of where we would like to be anyhow. So independently from the current condition is just a good situation to think about. Yeah, but okay, if we are thinking long term, then where are we actually going to be, and how?
But there's going to be the new normal, no?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the real focus, and everywhere we see that pretty much every company has been reacting quickly on a kind of day-to-day needs and kind of reacting on their operations and make that possible, but it's nearly not a good situation to be in it. I think the real situation is where we will be in 6 months from now or in a year from now. And if we can now rethink the quality of these spaces now, and I think that's a fantastic period. And as much as we can take this momentum possible to kind of rethink the technology, the use spaces, the people, the kind of social interaction, the HR components, the operational components, everything is at the mercy of a new reframe, and that's a tremendous opportunity to not leave behind.
Hans, among your clients, you work with a lot we collaborated also with some important global tech clients who are known very much for innovation. What are their direction, in terms of new projects to take into consideration this new normal and social distancing issue?
So of course there are the short-term fixes which are quite straightforward because they are short term. But as Filippo was saying, we need to be looking at medium and long term. And the medium long term really is, the staff's well-being. It's very important. The carbon footprint. And this is actually quite a good way of looking at this in a new way during this new normal, which is this may not be the last pandemic. There may be another one, etc. And we need to be able to deal with that. And companies who are able to look well ahead and say, actually, this is the kind of building we want to be in, and this is the kind of office we want to be in. There's a lot of talk about some certain companies, not my clients, letting go of space, like a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, actually, because half the people are working from home. But actually, as everybody on the call here is saying, actually, it's not about letting go of space. It's about reimagining the spaces, because the staff will require different things. Let us start with, people are cycling more from home. That reduces the carbon footprint of a city quite a lot. But when you have 500 staff trying to get fit and cycle, you need to think about the logistics of all of that. You need to think about the showers, all these things. And I think also the landlords and who provide buildings that has that kind of infrastructure, I think will win out in the long term.
Great. I'm very glad because I can hear in this conversation that everybody is concentrating more on the people, on the staff, rather than the client, really. And that is, of course, something which makes me very happy, because it means that in the future we'll keep improving the quality of the office projects. And that's a great thing for everybody to hear. I'll ask Filippo that, all three of you are basically working on a lot of international projects. But are you experiencing, Filippo, some differences from country to country in the way that your client are asking you to design the offices from the pre to the post-COVID time?
I think there are always cultural differences between countries, because the kind of current situations are evolving on a local base. So that is a kind of, I think, a general consideration. But broadly speaking, there are not too many differences. So we work more now than ever in a very globalized world, where the general understanding of the needs are coming across the continents in a quick way through sessions like these ones. And in a quick way, everybody from the globe is able to grasp the right sensibility and absorb them into their own. And so do, I guess, most of our clients, in respect to their local kind of conditions, which might be different because of legislations, because of the current situation might allow or not allow certain things to happen. So in one way, yes, there is a difference. And the other way, no, there isn't, because we are truly all much more digital than ever before. So that it is a yes and no. How do you say that?
Right. Amir, for you, it's...
Yeah, I mean, by its nature, for us, delivering a consistent product worldwide globally means consistency in design, obviously, and in the sourcing too. To achieve economies of scale, when sourcing at a locations across the globe like that, you need consistency. But that being said, our spaces all have unique characters to them and unique feels. Design is always utilizing materials, fabrics, graphics, even neon art that is influenced by local cultures. So there's always local culture infused into these buildings. From a lighting perspective, I don't know, we didn't talk much about lighting in that respect, but there are opportunities. Every building is not the same. No two architecture are equal in that sense, and it's by taking advantage of those differences between the architectural from a lighting perspective, I think can create a lot of individual special moments. I think our lighting design team has been instrumental in creating these special moments that celebrate the uniqueness of the space.
Hans, what is your opinion about this? You're more, let's say, Europe than worldwide,
Well, at the moment, but I think from my experience anyway, Europe has generally been at the forefront of flexible working anyway. I think Asia is less, and I think it's if you take Europe and let's say Japan, it's always been more difficult to work flexibly in Japan, for instance, anyway. But I think ultimately what we're designing for is the best that we can design for global clients, and the best spaces for work tasks that we can. How people react to it and how would they adapt to it will be different because there are cultural differences. But I think after post-COVID, I think there would be a convergence simply because the technology that is available to bring these together, it's all there now.
About technology, which technology do you see as the main long-term trend integrated in offices? And if are you already using this type of technology in your projects?
We are, I'm sure everybody will be talking about the same thing. I think a lot of people are talking about touchless technology, switches, lights, taps.
Still, when touching is becoming something, let's say, dangerous, this is still true at this moment. You think so?
But the perception of it is, I think that's the thing. And you could have a lot of cleaners cleaning, but I think the perception, I think if the staff feel uncomfortable, then I think the company would have to address it. But I think all the technology that is at present, there is still a tiny bit to catch up, but I think it's all there to promote being able to change the lighting in the room via your own phone, for instance, without having to use a light switch or a dimmer switch. That's already here. To be able to alter the air conditioning, that's already here. But it's about integrating it all and to be able to book a room via your phone and enter a room to actually get it to the condition that you want it to be in. That could all be touchless quite easily. And I think that is probably where we're going at the moment.
And Filippo, I imagine this is also very much true for you. But we know that you have also one department of the company called Sense, which is really studying these sensorial approaches to architecture. So, is there something, without disclosing too much, of course, because we don't want to dig into secrets, but is there something that you see as a technology that will change our way to operate or to work in an office for the future?
Because Sense kind of as roots into the idea of sensorial technology, and that is what we have been interested as UN Studio for a long time, and that means technology that can measure. I think that's an interesting technology that we're all about looking for. But the question is, what should you measure? And I think that if we could measure topics that are less tangible, so not temperature, not occupancy, but if we could measure empathy or we could measure happiness, those would be tremendous technology to have, because effectively, if we talk about reframing the office as a kind of spaces for social interaction, then you don't want to know if they're occupied or not, but you want to know if people are actually happy there, or they are, if their level of social engagement and the empathy that they can experience, that is kind of revealing more than we could if we have a type of measurement that are more related to the efficiency of of the buildings and the spaces that we have. And I think in this role, the space of the technology that we are using in the spaces themselves should allow for the translation of this type of measurements.
And how much is this a science fiction, and how much is reality?
It is. We think it's very real, and you can associate a lot of kind of mood or changes even simply by adapting to the biological rhythm, right? We often talk about, for example, in lighting, we talk about this whole circadian rhythm and tunable light however the temperature of the color of light to the inside, to the outside and inside kind of matches. All these are instrument to creating a better engagement, a better reaction of our biological bodies to what nature is outside there, and that is proven to be increasing happiness. So I don't think it's science fiction. It's just about using the technology, but also evaluating that in the proper way. And I think that's what we have now an opportunity to kind of redo in such a radical way that we kind of can point a finger at that, and we definitely need to.
And Amer, what is your opinion about this?
Yeah, I mean, there's two areas. I mean, it relates very much to what Filippo was talking about. That I see there's going to be a lot of innovation, and there's already is a lot of innovation in circadian rhythm lighting and wireless controls. Right? They kind of all work together to create a better environment to inhabit, especially that the times we inhabit those spaces, and we call them office spaces, is going to elongate throughout the day. There's interesting things I see, happening. A lot of companies approach us, obviously, in that space. There's companies like a Nanolit startup. They're doing very interesting thing with color modulation. You got the companies like Zombie on wireless networks, etc. I mean, both, and they're different spheres, but they both allow, for example, instant remote changes to lighting system to adapt to the people inside the building. And so you don't need to reconfigure your controls. You don't need to reconfigure your lighting. That this whole system is going to be integrated and flexible to respond to the people in this space. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see more integration of that. I think the challenge obviously is quantifying the happiness and the well-being. This is a big challenge now, but it's also an opportunity, right? Employers are figuring out, okay, how can I make my people happier? That's going to improve their efficiency, their output. If you're happy, you're going to do really good work.
So a good mix of, so we can call it officeness. So a mix of office and wellness. This is the way you see that. And so I understand that, so we went a little bit into the lighting subject. So I can understand from you that the main changes, the most remarkable change that you see in the future in lighting is more over control and technology rather than design. Is that what you mean?
I wouldn't say rather, but connectivity is going to be huge, right? There's going to be connectivity between light fittings and other objects and other systems in this place, in the space. They're going to be connectivity to the building itself. They're going to be connectivity to the people themselves, right? So I'm not sure that qualifies as a remarkable change, because I think we've been heading there for a while. But I think when we get there and we achieve a higher connectivity, maybe that's going to be just remarkable to experience.
And Hans, what do you think about this? What is, in your opinion, the future of integration of lighting from its technological view form? in the future of offices projects?
I think as designers, we've been looking at integrating for some time. It's just a matter of whether we are able to for whatever project or timeline. I think it will be fantastic because one, it improves the efficiency and the carbon footprint, and also it actually improves people's lives, mood, working environment, and from the we have as Emma was saying, we have one box for Wi-Fi, one box for this, and one box for that. The ceiling is full of boxes, and then we also have to improve the acoustics a lot more now that we're doing video conference calls are the norm now, rather than we have to. And I think all of that should be integrated, and seamlessly. I think that would be the right way to go about it.
So, Filippo, I think this is something that you can definitely.
I support everybody else. I think it is also maybe another word that complements it is the idea of adaptation. Right? When you integrate, you also can adapt better. As if we need to change our spaces a little bit more quickly because we have different distances, how do you adapt? So especially if and the controls support adaptation, but it's not only the controls. You need also to be able to detach things and reattach them somewhere else, or you need to be able to send back 4 of them and get 4 new ones. So there are different new business models that maybe are related to the world of lighting that are more about the same way as we do with every other kind of furniture object in the world, in the kind of corporate world, so that you can rent. So maybe there are other ideas that can be injected into it that support the idea of adaptations and that facilitate the nature of change of spaces. And as that's what spaces in itself is not very good at changing. So it's kind of the holy grail. How do you change spaces? How do you pay spaces that keep on changing?
Absolutely. So, Amer, something. Can you give us a glimpse of something exciting about WeWork for the future?
A lot of stuff exciting. I mean, we're going through very challenging times right now, right? On multiple levels. I think.
But really, because the time is challenging, we live from excitement, so we would like to.
Right, there's a lot of excitement happening in that sense. I mean, I think the company from the origin is set out to change the office sphere to create the future of the office space, and now more than ever, I think that mission is critical. So just being really a part of that is exciting by its own. I think from my personal challenges here, just having this global footprint and having the challenge of I focus on sourcing supply chain, obviously, for the company, just being adaptive and able to respond to those challenges on the scale is super exciting.
Okay, Hans, how can you excite us for the future?
Well, I think everything is up for debate, right? We're questioning everything from the minute you walk into the office to the minute you leave. I think that's all being questioned right now. So I think that's very exciting in that way, and the fact that actually people are re-examining the way they engage with work rather than a workplace. That's very exciting, and how we provide a framework for that to happen, and for people, as people say, people's happiness. They have spent time thinking about what makes them happy in these very challenging times, and going back to the office and sitting at the desk and not being happy, they're going to start questioning a lot of things. So I think we need to provide a framework for that.
Filippo, what is your form of excitement for us?
I can tell you what I'm really excited of. I'm excited of to see that there is a kind of a big shift also from a kind of a culture of ownership to cultural experiences, and that is, in a way, it's nothing new, but for me it is super exciting to kind of see that manifesting in the new reality of working. So if and I think we're very excited about rethinking about the experience design of spaces. So almost where you don't really, it's not about the space in itself, but it's really about the experience of it. Whether that is, and if you think of, a new experience of working in the future where you have homework and non-homeworking, you can, easily shift from having a conversation to in 1 meter away, you can cook tremendous food. So,
1.5 meter away.
Exactly, but think about the kind of possibilities that we have. Your day experience can completely change by mixing your sporting with home, with conferencing, with cooking, with and another day you are in an office space and you're socializing. So there is much more variability of experiences, and that will leave us with less monotones. One thing that I would really love to see change is the experience of commuting. So how do you move in the city? So if we could all work to change that, and how our experiences of working will also increase. There's a lot of people around the globe that are traveling for hours they commute hours to go to a workspace, and now it seems almost crazy. Why did you commute 6 hours, so 10 hours a week or something? It sounds unimaginable for it.
It's true. It's the same in America, where people tend to move very easily for business. Is this becoming the new reality?
Yeah, I mean, it's been here. For our approach is to have multiple locations, obviously, so you're always able to access an office next to where you live, and really mesh it in more seamlessly in your lifestyle, right? No 2 days are alike in terms of activities, in terms of programmatic needs, etc. I do want to put some thoughts here. We talked about technology, we talked about space, and since everybody's in a lighting sphere, I think it's important also to talk about basic good lighting for spaces. And perhaps now that everybody's working from home, they're realizing how poor those spaces are lit, and getting inspired from maybe the office spaces themselves to integrate that back into their lives. I want to just shout out to our lighting team across the globe. Since they formed and really worked on our spaces, the spaces got truly transformed, and they have, we talk about basic stuff, but basic dedication to perhaps uplighting, vertical illumination, really using light to improve the awareness of the space itself can increase happiness on its own, can increase a better mood, etc. So I think they've done a tremendous job with that, and hopefully people can take that and apply it to their daily lives and daily spaces as well.
Yes, I agree with you, because of course the educational lighting in the world is of course not so high. We didn't want to make this as an elegy to lighting or to light, more in a constructive talk on the future of office. But of course, you also mentioned lighting, and we are a lighting company, so we're happy that you are taking this subject. I think the conversation went pretty smooth, so I would like to conclude this first session by asking you a question. Before that, I would like to remind everybody listening, to all the audience, that this is the first of a series of 4 Designing the Future sessions. And next week, we will have one about retail with very important guests also for this new session. So just stay tuned. You will be receiving tomorrow more information about it. And so I would like to conclude with Hans first to wrap up. Any final thoughts or messages that you would like to share with everybody listening to this webinar?
Okay, well, I think to everybody out there, companies who are thinking whether it's 50-50 office, home, 70-30, 80-20, and I think we need to have a think to make the office a destination that people would love to go to and enjoy being, and actually get something out of it that they need, that they are not getting from home, and they actually are given the flexibility to work from home when they want to. And actually the world has just become much bigger rather than the world is just office. And I think that's a much better thing, because you are spending a lot of time thinking, innovating, collaborating, and working together. I think that's quite a nice thing to do.
Filippo, your wrap-up message?
Yeah, I would welcome to think in two ways, in a transversal way, really grasping a lot of the information from everybody that is at work. So to really kind of involve everybody in the work environments, to kind of really understand their needs from their private moment, their health, their mental needs, their psychological issues, their physical issues, and also extend the space of work from the office to everywhere else they work. So it's not just about the office space. And so whether that is my poor light condition at home, as Amir was talking about, or my not ergonomic chairs in a cafe, it's now the time that we can rethink about it all from an experience perspective. So rather from a space perspective, and that is also something that every employer around the globe has to do, because if your people are not healthy, and then it's going to be not good for everybody. So to rethink about the health of everybody. That's what my message would be.
Okay, let's conclude with Amir's message to the world.
I would just like to echo both points. I mean, working for WeWork, you realize that we're already actually enjoying this type of integration between life and work. It's kind of when you start looking outside and realize there's a lot of catching up to do for a lot of corporate companies out there to adopt that type of system. Definitely echo and encourage that. I mean, this is where we need to think about the future of the office, is not in one place, and how it really fits into your life.
Thank you very much. So I'm very pleased and honored to to have had this opportunity to hold this conversation with you guys. Thanks, Amer. Thanks, Hans. Thanks, Filippo. And thanks to the audience who's had the patience to listen to us. And I hope that we have stimulated some thought today. So don't miss next Tuesday, the Designing the Future Retail session. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.